Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here again, and this time without Bill, but he will join us next time. So I have Kevin here, and today we have again an ordinary term, honor. And of course, my first question cannot be different. So if you close your eyes, Kevin, and I say the term honor, what is first what came to your mind?
First thing that comes to mind is to honor your promises. So honor means keeping your word. And fulfilling promises, fulfilling obligations.
So it's something which is connected to your own behavior.
Yeah. It's something that you should do.
Okay, but if it's so, why should we honor politicians and moneymakers and leaders when they don't do?
We absolutely shouldn't. That's not honor at all. It's that's something completely different. There is, no politician deserves our honor. I mean, they can deserve some respect, but even then, I think it's only a minority.
On the other hand, if we speak about a president or prime minister or anyone else, we say, or we should honor them. The societies say we should honor them. But I have never heard that a president or prime minister should honor the workers on the street.
No, and the interesting thing that in the English Parliament, for example, they call themselves right honorable. So it's a term they use to describe each other, but I'm certain that nobody in the street would use that term to describe any of them. They're a bunch of dishonorable scoundrels, most of them.
Do you think that the term, again, because we have many terms which change their meaning during the time, that it was the same with this term?
I think in the past, it must have meant that someone was trustworthy. If someone was an honorable person, then of course you could trust them. They weren't corrupted. They weren't dishonest. So I think it was a term to describe somebody who would fulfill their promises, someone you could trust. But I don't think there's many politicians today that
we do not need to speak about politicians only. As you know yourself, before you can do any deal today in an industry with a player or somewhere, the first you sign is NDA. It's not a handshake. It's nothing like that. So you have a bunch of lawyers behind you. They print all the papers, and it's nothing about honesty there. Generally, one is trying to play the secrets, the other play the secrets. And this is what turns us in the current situation where honor is just a term in the historical books, generally.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we live in a dishonorable age. And the behavior of lawyers, the behavior of businesses, the behavior of the giants, the rich, there's nothing honorable about anything that they do. There is, honor comes from a golden age, which is long gone, I think.
On the other hand, last time with Bill, we discussed value, and there came the honor in a discussion shortly. And we generally discuss and came to the conclusion we are missing the right term and or the right approach. Cannot be honor the right thing, because at the beginning you said it's something so it's connected to everyone life. And I think not a single person would like to be called dishonorable or something like in this way. So maybe it can help.
I think it's interesting because I'm sure if you talk to most lawyers, they wouldn't say that they were dishonorable despite the things that they do. So they can frame it in such a way that they may behave dishonorably, but they're doing it in an honorable way, which you need to be a lawyer to be able to construct such a thought in the first place.
When I was asking at the noon discussion, so we came to similar conclusion that is something which is connected to a person, so to our personality. but the very different answer. There was a pet from Australia and Raphael from Germany generally, so 2 languages, and me. And when I asked the same question, what is honor for you? In Czech, 99% of the answer says mobile phone. Because it is one of the brands of Xiaomi, it's called Honor.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a funny name for a brand.
Mm. It should be generally the higher ranked Xiaomi mobile phone, so it was called Honor, and it is still existing. So they sell a lot of the devices are not bad. So a standard Android phone. So but not bad specs generally. But 99% of people, especially those who do not speak any English, say mobile phone. And the question is it honorable to take this term as the term of a product, as a name of a product?
If they behave honorably, perhaps it would be a really good name.
Exactly this word has sound before, and I just reply, it's a Chinese producer. So that's all what I can say. But coming back to the topic, I think that maybe really the term can help us, because the fact is that it's very bold. So it contains a lot of things. On the other hand, all these things can be put under the one term.
I think it shows how untrusting we are of each other these days, that we don't rely upon honor anymore. Or it used to be called an honor system. I don't know if it's the same in Czech, but in Denmark, in the autumn, people put bags of fruit outside and then a box, and they just expect you to put the money in and take it. And that still exists at a local level, but at a national level, or inside a city, there is no honor system at all. Everything has been set up in such a way that nobody trusts anybody any longer. There is no place for honor in urban living.
And you just spoke about Denmark. I don't know whether you know the work of Matt. I know his first name, Matt General, and he is fighting in some way against the food waste in Danish supermarkets, placing pictures of full containers of unpacked food, and it's almost every day. And he do it for several years already, and there is nothing about nothing changed. The only what changed, they put a lock on the container, so he cannot go inside. But if you speak about the fruits and vegetables on the fences, in some places in Czech Republic in the morning, there will even not be the fence, not speaking about the fruits.
Actually, there's another interesting thing. Maybe it's an English thing. They have they give each other honors. So if you're a politician, once you've retired, you'll be given an honor. So you can become an OBE, a CBE, you get some medal from the king, and that's a physical way of showing how honorable you are, which is, it just leads to rampant corruption. It's the most dreadful system you could ever imagine.
So coming back to the question, can we use the term? Can we narrow it? Can we teach to be honorable? Time to time, I really feel to be honored when I'm invited to speak to some people, and they say great things about what I do and so on. So I feel it. I feel to be honored. Usually I have tears in my eyes, so it's a common thing for me. And I think that's with this term, I have connected a very strong feeling of understanding of, let's say, people value what I do. And I think that maybe it can be somehow put in the system, in a new system, not speaking about the old one, about the new one, which will really get this term and the meaning back.
Yeah, I think that with this term hasn't been hijacked. It just needs resurrecting.
Hmm.
It needs bringing back to life, because I mean, most people do behave honorably, and most people get a good feeling out of doing that, of being trustworthy, of doing the right thing. And yeah, we just need to bring it back as a part of decent behavior.
And maybe because it was not hijacked yet, maybe the way will be shorter.
Yeah, I think so, because it is something that ordinary people do. I mean, most people are trustworthy and decent, and so it is a part of their natural behavior. And it would be nice just to take pride in that and recognize it again for what it is.
I can imagine to do it in a small scale of people, but to do it nationwide or to do it on a scale of global scale, probably we can use of course, the existing social media and all these terms to share this information and share the way, not the way, the explanation or the tools, or I don't know, something which bring it back in books. You know, you are writing books, Bill, many others. So maybe we can do it this way.
And I think that it's most people do it. I think most people do behave honorably. It's it's just nothing that gets recognized, and it isn't rewarded the way that being dishonorable is. So I think that's where we need to change. We need to compliment each other for doing the right thing, for being decent.
Do you think it is similar to the experience which I have a long time ago, 30 years ago, when I entered a company? I was the youngest one, and of course I was hired generally to make the changes, and there has been people twice so old as me, and they never say anything good when something turns good, but all the time they pointed out when something get wrong. And one day I asked them, there was a maybe Christmas party, I don't know. I asked them, why don't you say or thanks for something what went good? And they said, you know, Mr. Rada, if it's good, it's automatic. It was your work. It was your task. Why should we? I tell you, that was a very lesson for me.
Yeah. And of course, I think we learn more from praise than from criticism. And it's just a nice thing to give people praise. But like you say, it is, depending upon the situation, it is expected that you do a good job. But at the same time, it's still very nice to be told.
And I think that in some way, many people even fear to say they are honorable, you know, because they see around them a lot of people who steal, they are rich, they become celebrities. And they say, okay, why should I say I'm honorable? So isn't it something negative? So
yeah. I have an interesting story. I was reading about German society 200 years ago, when they were moving from an agricultural society into an industrial society. And the landowners became fewer, but they had much bigger land. And they were under pressure to keep their workers. And one of the ways they could keep their workers was to pay them more. But this wasn't good economics. So what they started to do was inventing a reward system, so that they would start giving people medals. And so, for example, if the postman was a postman for 10 years and he wanted a pay rise, then the village would have to pay for that, which meant the landowners would have to pay. But instead of giving him a pay rise, they gave him a medal. They gave him some honor instead. So he could then wear his badge of honor on his sleeve to show everybody what a good job he had done. And in one respect, that for these people, that was more valuable than a pay rise, because it was a sign from society saying, I'm doing a good job. and people are honoring me by giving me this. And I think it's very, very interesting.
I think that we keep it until today, you know, when, especially at the end of the year, there are so many awards, celebrations, and so on. And the only thing which you get even not a medal, you get some certificate or whatever. You have to pay your travel, accommodation, everything. And as a return, you can spend 5 minutes on a stage, you get a certificate and you leave. Especially in India, a lot of things, they are depending on certificates. They even collect them. And when you would like to be hired, so you take a big, bold book with certificates, and really they go through the certificates, watch where, but it has, I was asked several times for a certificate for someone who participate on my workshops. And I said, but I don't know what you have learned.
No.
I can write that you was there, but that's all what I can write about you. So I explained them that this is not about this. This is about learning. And I offer them to prove it. Not a single one accepted, of course. But you know, I'm not trying to push them down. And if you look at especially in Russia, Korea, the old soldiers with all the medals all across up to the trousers, they can hardly move. On the other hand, they are bulletproof at the time. So at least from the
yeah, it's and of course the main reason for, especially for the German younger class, for doing this wasn't to make them feel better. It was to save money, because a piece of silk and a piece of tin is much cheaper than a pay rise.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. And today you even don't need to make a physical item. You can issue a digital certificate or give a bunch of likes, or I don't know. So a very different way, which is even cheaper than that.
Yeah, yeah. A photograph on Facebook.
That's interesting. Greta and so many selfies with the politicians. That was exactly how her presence boosts up all the other stuff. Just a few minutes before I saw today the article of Guardian where the people say about COP28, and it was named, I don't remember exactly, but generally not a single sponsor of COP28 accept or registered for UN agreement. Of course not. Why should they? They pay the event, so why should they follow the rules?
That thing is such a travesty. It is, you know, it's too ridiculous even to be funny. It is just grotesque. And they sit there and let's see what comes out of this.
The worst part about it is that even the people who will speak there, they promote as an honor to be there and to speak. And they say all the time, they say, this time the leaders will change. Why should they?
Yeah. Why is it held where it's being held if they want change? This is the last place which is going to change anything. That's the whole point of them taking it over.
Yesterday, when I came back from the factory, I was on an event regarding Industry 5.0 in, I think, UK was it. And we discussed what it can, the work of these students, it was some research group, what it will deliver to the industries. And there has been so surprised when I said that industries are not transparent. These people don't know anything about it, you know. They say, what? But they speak to each other. I say, yes, they have a battle every day, but secret is the first one. NDA, before signing NDA, you cannot enter a door in a company. So it was really different, which means the handshake and the honor of being my partner, you speaking with, it's my honor to speak with you and with Bill every single week. You know, it's such a great feeling that we can change the world through discussion, through the people listening to us, through waking up the people.
And I think it's also interesting talking about honorable behavior, that the reason industry has NDAs and secrets isn't so much to protect their real secrets, their business secrets. It's to hide what they're doing. It is to hide dishonorable behavior.
And then they get a stamp, honorable stamp by KPMG or someone. You just buy these stamps, you know all how this work is running. So if you pay less, they make you more trouble, but at the end you get your certificate.
Yeah.
So it's really, we need to narrow it. We need to probably bring it from the school age. And I think we have to get the people to understand it's not shame to be honorable. It's not shame to really do things right.
Yeah.
In Czech, we have, from the communist time, we have a bunch of very strange sayings. One of them, if you do not steal at work, you steal something from your family.
Yeah. But I think that we can't expect any change to come from COP. Nothing will come from the United Nations. Nothing will come from industry. Nothing will come from government. All the change will come from grassroots. If we're going to change the environment and stop waste, if we're going to make the world a better place to breathe in, it will come from honorable people, not organizations, which seem to be incapable of behaving honorably in any way at all, which includes governments, it includes NGOs, but it will come from people, decent, ordinary, honorable people.
Exactly. The people need to stop shame for the fact that they are just humans. It's not just, it's the highest what we can get. So generally, and behaving this way, behaving honorable, behaving right. There was in the noontime, there was a discussion, we should behave according to the standards, but the standards are set up from the top. So the standards are not right because the ones who create them, they break them first. And they are created just to enslave the rest of the people who cannot break free so easily. So I think this is important. And I feel that the term honor is somehow fitting in the picture.
I think so too. You can see that the people who make the rules, they don't make the rules for themselves. They make them for everybody else. So the more we comply, the more we fool ourselves into thinking we're doing the right thing, we're being honorable. But we're not, we're just being manipulated by dishonorable people.
It's so horrible to discuss this reality. Because it's not a science fiction, it's not a horror movie, it's our life.
Yeah.
In which majority of the people behave this way because the society says, these are the rules, you must behave this way. And even if you look at the politician which break every single one of those, there are people who still trust them. It's so strange. You just get a little frozen.
Same infrastructure, but they don't want to pay for it. So the little people have to pay for it because they need all the money for themselves.
The crazy part, there is all the time 1 kilometer of highway in my country costs 150 million Czech crowns, which is about 150 divided by 25. It's a lot of, so millions of euro, I don't know how many, it doesn't matter. And yesterday, they built a new highway, new few kilometers of the highway. And yesterday, they found out that they forgot to build a railway tunnel. So
no.
Yes, so they will really break the entire highway, this 150 million per kilometer, to make a hole below. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And this is happening here. So in the heart of Europe, I am wondering that this is a permanent heart attack, you know. I'm living in a permanent heart attack here in the heart of Europe. So
yeah. And that's the interesting thing that with governments and money is that they can waste money all day long, and they do. And then they can cover it up, they can hide it. When it comes to a highway, it has to be dug up again. You can't hide that, but it's just one of those things. They are so wasteful.
You know, I have been yesterday and day before yesterday with one of my major clients. This is a 185 years old steel factory. And we came to a project which maybe will be complete a breakthrough in a steel making business, turning the business model into something very different generally. And it is so interesting. And we have been walking there with the people, talking to them. You know, it was so strange that the people has been able, workers there, to tell you in 3 sentences, turn 3 times in a very opposite direction, and all the time they consider they are right. That was very strange feeling that the people they even do not recognize that. You know, they say right, in the next sentence left, in the next sentence up, and everything is correct for them.
Yeah.
And not a single answer is correct in reality.
But the internet is creating, the whole world will be like that. There is no longer a right and wrong. There is no longer an up or down. Everything is open for manipulation.
And is being manipulated, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think with the books, is it different? You know, because you need to spend the time on writing a book. It must be printed, must not, but let's say it must be printed, it must be distributed. Is it different? Do you know someone who intentionally I don't speak about leaflets and this political bullshit generally, which is frequently published with 500 pages and so on, which nobody reads. But with the real book, which you and Bill and others are writing, will you ever dare not to be honest there?
I think there's no point in writing a book if you're not honest with yourself. And then you might as well write propaganda for the government, because they'll probably pay better in the first place. But no, if you can't be true to yourself, then you'll never be true to anybody.
Is there in this process or in this way of thinking or living, or I don't know how to say that, is there the fact that play the role the fact that you know that the books will be there longer than you?
That's one of the nice things about writing a book, is that then it is something you leave behind. We all want to leave behind something. We know we can't live forever, so the next best thing we can do is leave something behind. And I think that a book is one of those things where it has your voice in it, it has your ideas, it has your personality, your passions into it, which is, of course, books have to be published. So like all things, if it's not commercial, it won't be published. And so it has to have a certain attraction. And at the moment, I've been working on some movie scripts. And there you can see that there's far less freedom in writing a movie script than a book, because movies are extremely expensive to make. And so the investors will say, we want a movie and we want it on this subject. And so the more money which is put into something, the more the money how it should be, which in a way makes sense. But it shows that at least writing a book, you have quite a lot of personal freedom And the more expensive, the great thing about a book is you can buy a real masterpiece for 12 euros. And it's the only art form where you can buy an original for so little money.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think books are real treasures.
And there is one big advantage, which just now I recognize in the books. I never thought about it before. Generally, you cannot just erase a sentence which you do not like, because it is there. It's not a digital that you swipe away. I don't want it. I rewrite it. In a script, there is the danger, of course, and I have heard about the script writers which gave a script and then at the end is something completely different, of course. But with the book, it is different. On the other hand, I spoke with one author in Czech Republic, and she said that because I asked her whether she developed new words. In Czech, it's I like to develop new words. Industry 5.0 was new word, but I develop a crazy word. So the Czech language allow you to do this stuff. I don't know about other languages. And I asked her, and she said, yes, time to time I do. But how are called the people who correct the book after you? Editors. She said, but the editors does not allow to do that. They will change it to the original word, to the common word. It will be that's horrible. I develop it, someone will change it in something which is existing. No.
I think sometimes when you play with words, it's more interesting to use the wrong words and make a deliberate mistake. And again, those are the first things which get cut away, which is really a pity because language is alive and it's growing.
I do remember until now one presentation which one of my colleagues did 20, 30 years ago. I do not remember. And instead of warehouse, he said warhouse. And everybody remembered that even after 30 years, because in some way, the war is really in the warehouse. There are fighting people who pick it up and produce and so on. So there is a war, but it was not intentionally, but until today, we remember him for saying this warhouse. And it was so interesting. So we need less editors, I will say. On the other hand, when I'm writing, I have a lot of mistakes. I do a lot of grammar mistakes, even in Czech language. I'm not good. In Czech, we say that people who read regularly and a lot of are better in grammar. I am the exception. So I read thousands of books and I am not good in it. So.
No, it's the worst part of writing is the corrections. It's a long, hard process. But then it changes from being creative to being disciplined. And there's, of course, discipline and creativity. But it's a different kind. It's a much more focused discipline to create the correct.
I have an excuse, scientific excuse, because scientists really discover that if you try to correct your own mistakes, sometimes you don't see them. So I am covered by science.
There's one interesting thing I found, that three of my books, I've had 3 books being published or are published, and all 3 of them have been signed up as movies. And because I used to work in advertising, I know if you write a 30-second TV commercial in an advertising agency, by the time the film production companies get hold of it, it's going to be more or less unrecognizable. And so with the books to movies, I've managed to free myself entirely from the process, because I know that the end result won't be anything like I imagine or like I wrote. And so to avoid any upset, I stay well away from it and have no expectations.
How is the relation? If you are the author, they have to ask you to have the rights to turn it into movie, I expect. Yeah. And you get something for that, whatever. It's not important, but you have to get the permission. But you do not want to have the rights to speak to it. And they will not give you probably the rights to speak to the script and to the end end movie.
No, no, that's it. Once they've got it, it's a different medium, and they understand the film medium, and so it's then their project. They do it the way they think best.
But it's quite interesting because, as you said, it let you the freedom, because you are not bothered whether it will be or not become a movie. But at the end, it can be a double success, let's say.
Yeah. And the interesting being a writer, that when they make a movie, it's such a long and complicated process, and there's so many points that the movie can be cancelled, that traditionally the first day of a movie, they don't do any work. They have a party to celebrate that the thing has come to fruition. And then the last day of the movie is also a party. So traditionally the movie makers say to the authors, you're welcome to come on the first day and the last day, nothing in the middle.
Have you been offered to have a radio play out of it? Or is it something which can be turned into a radio play?
That my second book, I think, would make a good theater play. But I haven't discussed with my agent or anybody how to do that. But I think it would make a great piece of theater.
Because as you know, I like Karel Čapek and his books, and what the British BBC make with RUR, it's really incredible. They did it so well that I think I imagine it like the War of Wars. What was the original title?
Yeah, War of the Worlds with H.G. Wells.
Yeah. How he really made the people all around the world crazy, and they did it exactly that. And I do remember, we have no TV when I was a kid, so listening to this great, turning it into the radio play, it generally wake up my imagination. So for an author, I think it can be even closer to the book than the movie itself.
It's interesting. And when I was working in advertising, I was working as a copywriter, and I was writing TV commercials. But only the very, very best writers worked on radio commercials, because it's such a skill. And they were saying that, when you got pictures, you got sounds, and you can have a voice, or you can have actors. It's very easy to tell a story. But they said radio is the theater of the mind. Yes. And there you have to put everything into the head to make it work.
That's a great sentence. That's a great sentence. So it will be interesting. And of course, I wish you that even all your books get into the radio as well, because I think it will be interesting. Just for information, we have less than 2 minutes to go. So, and at the beginning, I said to me, okay, so 2 of us and 40 minutes, it may be long. And just now it's even shorter than when we are all 3 here.
Yes, it's true.
But it was great again. So I think that it counts to the honor. I think it's exactly this kind of conversation. It shows up the honor, the value of the honor itself. Because both of us, we honor the presence of the other person, our discussion, the talk, and all the topics. So it's really great.
Yeah. And I think honor it's forgotten. It's a forgotten value. And we need to bring it back.
And we will. So thanks a lot for your time. I would like to wish everyone, and you, of course, have a nice time free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and of course, be honored. No, how you will say it?
Act honorably.
Act honorably. It's very difficult to pronounce for me, but act honorably as well. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.